Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here joining us once again. We're broadcasting out of Elk River, Minnesota. It's probably about an hour south of Malacca, Minnesota. They got a place up there called it's some kind of Malacca greenhouse. But basically this guy and some other person just sell a bunch of plants and things of that nature. Pretty cool place. It's a mom and pop type place. So, the other night we announced that we did get some lighting apparatuses here to hopefully be able to utilize the green screen on a regular basis. So, been playing around with that a little bit. Hopefully we got that good, and hopefully there's no shadowing and that the green screen shows up. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I actually do have a lot of knowledge in lighting. See, a couple of years ago I used to watch a lot of these videos, and what they would do with those videos is they would have certain individuals in the video that would not be wearing too many clothes, and what they would do is they would have these guys that would stand around with white sheets to reflect the light off of the camera or the sun or any other spotlights and things of that nature. And generally it was to accentuate certain parts of these individuals that were being prominently displayed. So I watched a lot of these videos, so I was able to identify proper lighting techniques to be able to apply to this show. And hopefully the fruits of the labor will show up here. And the thing of it is too, you don't just watch the videos. I mean, you watch it in slow motion, you change the aspect ratio and repeat certain parts, maybe zoom in on some parts, and that was all just so I would have a better knowledge of the lighting that went into it. That way, sometime in the future when I did when we would start filming the show, I'd have the experience to just go ahead. See, if we had to hire a couple clowns to stand around with white sheets of paper to reflect the light, I mean, it would, for one, it would not be cost productive. Number two, it'd be inconvenient because you have to, call people over to the studios and wait for them, and they probably have to let their dog out or walk their dog, so they'd be on a schedule, and it's just a big mess. So it's better off just to try to do as much as I can as an individual to help out with the show. It lifts the load off of the producers too, and it's and of course it's just good to have that backup knowledge as well. And I mean, believe it or not, you may find a lot of knowledge in things where you don't expect to find it. Now, does that mean just sit in front of YouTube and watch hours and hours of videos? Not necessarily, but when it comes to a point where your brain is no longer writing valuable information, then it might be the best time to move on to something else. And as far as those videos go, I don't watch any of those kind of videos anymore, but fortunately what I did learn from when I did watch those videos was extremely helpful in just video editing and lighting to apply to this show. Now, does that mean it's going to be a top-notch expert production? Not necessarily. I mean, it'll still be mostly an amateurish production and all that, but I mean, ultimately, if we want to see, we're just concerned about bringing a reasonably quality show that's entertaining and informative and healthy and all that stuff too. And we have been thinking about names for the show as well. In the past, we've thought about maybe Health on Earth or Health Me or something, or Healthraiser. That might be one. I mean, I guess I could be the Healthraiser. So that might be the direction we go with the show. And we've also been thinking about possibly introducing some other shows as well. Some of them may have me as the host, some of them may not have me as the host. Good Times, Balls Deep, that would be a excellent, outstanding show if we could ever get that off the ground. In Dawn We Trust, that would be another magnificent show. I think it would definitely make a lot of people great again. Harlan's Sermons, that would be another show that would just it would bring entertainment and information to a whole new level. I mean, that would be like an intergalactic informational warfare and enlightenment and all that stuff like that. Then we might have some other shows too, like Propaganda Extravaganza, which would basically consist of viewing news articles and commenting on it and enlightening the ladies and gentlemen at home exactly what the message is behind these particular news articles or news scenes, whatever episodes, whatever the case may be. Another show we might have is Lutheran nonfiction. It would be, there's the top-rated show to ever graze public access channel in central Minnesota. It'd sort of be a spin-off of that, And, of course, I would have to get permission from the individuals that filmed the past show. I mean, it's not the same name, but I might just steal and use the same name that they had, though, because it was just a lot better forthcoming name. But I mean, of course, we would have to get permission to do that, and usually what I've seen, though, is most any idea that we utilize that's successful, I generally have stolen it from somebody and just ran with it, because every original idea just flops tremendously and is almost, well, we're probably beyond embarrassment, but certainly we can reach new standards, lower standards, and it's something we don't really want to do. So I'll probably just stick with stealing ideas from other people. Some of the other news views, we were thinking about having a show like that. It'd be similar to propaganda extravaganza, but it's maybe a little less low-key and involves maybe news more on the local level. Because propaganda extravaganza would probably focus on more of the corporate mainstream puppet-owned media and things of that nature, whereas news views might be state, local, maybe what's going on around Elk River or the St. Cloud Times, possibly the Star Tribune. Star Tribune would probably have some good articles for propaganda extravaganza, but currently these are just pipe dreams. As of now, we're just still going to run text messages and things of that nature. Most of these shows, I'd probably just be the parasite of them. You know, like I'm the parasite of text messages. You know, so there's good news and bad news. Good news, expand the show foray or whatever. Bad news, you would still have me as the parasite. Because a lot of other people aren't really willing to go on camera. See, for me, it's really not that big of a deal. But some other people, I mean, they don't want to embarrass their families, their friends, their communities, or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, we do run risk of that too, but we're willing to make that sacrifice if it means bringing good health and good times to other people, especially if those good times are balls deep. But I mean, you know, some of these other shows, Harlan Sermons, In Don We Trust, Good Times, Balls Deep, I mean, in my opinion, they could probably be upper 5-10% in YouTube views, and most of the shows where I'm the parasite of, like this one, for example, is probably the lowest rated YouTube show, which is not necessarily a badge of honor, but it's certainly something that we feel that it's worth it. It's something that we take a lot of pride in, because if you look at our budget to our viewers, it's just astronomically high, which is something that we can claim, and we can go ahead and run with that. And you always got to play to your strengths, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we try to do with text messages, which is also why we focus on good health as the Healthraiser. So there is this other guy, though. He's the Health Ranger. So Healthraiser does sound pretty similar to Health Ranger, but you know, going back, but you know what? We could just claim that it's sort of stealing it and putting a little spin on it too. And you know, any good idea is usually a stolen idea. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, what we wanted to talk about today was related to eggs and chickens and all that. Chickens are fun animals to have around. They're pets. They're little. They're furry. They're cute. They do funny things. They go to their perch at night. They basically do everything you want a pet to do. They don't bite people. They don't really attack people. Yeah, they will crap everywhere and urinate everywhere. They have no boundaries there, so that generally you don't want to bring them inside. But when they're outside, out in the great outdoors where most animals love and belong, then they're going to be fine. They also like overhead protection, and they also like other predatory animals around that aren't going to eat them, to protect them from the predatory animals that will eat them, both overhead and coyotes, wolves, bears, raccoons, possums, Bigfoot, all those creatures that could be a potential danger to chickens. They usually just hang out in their coop out most of the day if there's no one around to protect them, and especially if there's no overhead protection. They even have a little sound they make when there's a big eagle or big hawk flying above. One of them will make the first one to notice it makes a sound, and then the others just tear off into some shelter. They can actually make up to 126 sounds, but probably, that's not exact number. Let's just say 10 dozen different sounds, which is probably close and equivalent to dogs and cats and other animals of alleged higher intelligence. One of the things you'll notice about chickens, though, yeah, they got small heads and everything, but they don't really have fine motor movements. I mean, their movements are far more digital than a cat or a dog. They don't move smoothly. They jerk their head around. They jerk up and down. When they walk, they kind of flop back and forth and waddle around. So like a duck, kind of. So that bigger brains require more control of all your motor neurons. So you could almost say people who are more athletic and better at lifting weights and things of that nature, or sports stars, they probably have really extraordinarily complex brain systems, because the brain is not just what's in the head, but also what expands throughout your entire body too. Your entire nervous system is part of your brains. You know, all the signals it's transmitting and receiving, the transceiving. So yeah, intelligence doesn't entirely have to be measured strictly by cognitive skills or ability to remember stuff or memorizational skills or spatial skills or organization. None of that. I mean, well, some of that, yeah, but also athletic skills definitely require motor neurons, which is controlled by the big brain up here. So, with that being said, there's a few terms for eggs out there. There's pasture-raised, free-range, and cage-free. Then there's the conventional eggs, you know, the white eggs that are anywhere from 50 cents to $1.50 a dozen. Super duper cheap. I mean, they look like eggs, they act like eggs, some of them taste like eggs, the texture is similar. So it stands to reason that they could possibly be considered eggs. But what the research found is that conventional eggs come from chickens that don't necessarily eat the best diet. They usually eat corn, grains, soy, things like that. And non-organic, of course, so it's probably full of the glyphosates and estrogen-mimicking hormones. And those chickens only have about 30 to 80 megagrams of omega-3 fatty acids. Generally, humans want to have about a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to 3. And omega-6, fatty oil, like fried oils, fries, and things of that nature, fried potatoes. Those have a lot of the omega-6s, which generally, the typical American diet gets an overabundant ratio of them to the omega-3s. So that's why anytime you can find the omega-3s, which is usually found in fish, have a lot of it. And a lot of people buy it as supplementation. It supposedly alters your joints. It creates less viscosity of your blood, so your blood travels faster and quicker through your body. So it decreases blood pressure, theoretically. It's overall pretty good stuff. So a measure of the health of an egg could definitely be omega-3 as the standard. So, certified organic means that chickens are fed an organic diet, which could still be the corn, grains, and soy and all that goofy stuff. And they could also be living ass to face with all their other buddies. So when they're urinating, they're all crapping and urinating all over each other. Then they get on their little perch, hunched next to their buddy, and lay their egg. And usually these chickens are raised under a heat lamp, so they stay awake all hours of the night. They don't maintain a natural, healthy circadian sleep rhythm, which probably doesn't attribute to health. I mean, you got to think about it. If I just stood here with these lights shining on me all the time and I never slept, and you brought these lights in my room and had a couple of us guys standing around with the white boards, and I was trying to go to sleep and you had this light shining on me, that's exactly how a chicken's life is. And it's not necessarily something you'd be comfortable with. Everybody knows that if you don't get at least 6 hours of sleep every night, you're not going to be a happy person the next day or the next morning. So a lot of these chickens that are conventionally raised, they don't lead a very healthy lifestyle. And when they don't lead a healthy lifestyle, it passes into their eggs too. Organic grain consumption does not produce a desirable amount of omega-3s. Pasture-raised chickens are allowed to roam outside at least 100 square feet, and they can eat grass, bugs, and worms. So these, out of all the ones, pasture-raised, cage-free, organic, conventional, pasture-raised is definitely the superior ones to go with as far as your health, because they have 2 times the omega-3, 3 times the vitamin D, and 4 times the vitamin E, and then 7 times the beta-carotene on average, relative to the conventionally grown hens. And 100 square feet, 10 foot by 10 foot. So this room here is about 20 by 13 feet or something like that. So 2 chickens would roam this room here. And that's a pretty good amount of space. I mean, if they dig up the ground, scratch it up, if grass is allowed to grow, there'll be a lot of bugs. And then if they can dig in it, when it rains too, a lot of worms will come to the surface. One of the hens here, Speckle hen, when it would rain, she'd just walk back and forth and pick off a bunch of worms. All day one time. After It wasn't really, it was sort of drizzling the whole day, and she just slowly walked back and forth like a sniper, just picked off worms all day. Yeah, you could say it's a bit inhumane to watch animals kill other animals, but for food and sustenance, it's not such a bad thing. When animals just go around and kill other animals for the hell of it and for no reason and just leave their decaying bodies laying there and don't give them a proper burial, that's definitely not a very good thing, and it's something we certainly would not condone here at Tex Messages. But we're eating worms. Worms are a great source of protein. Bugs are an excellent source of protein. And then other natural plants. They love berries too. Apples, fruits, things of that nature. They basically eat grains as a last resort. They prefer peanuts, mealworms over whatever food or that's sold at Fleet Farm or Menards or whatever the case may be. So free-range chickens means less than 2 square feet per pen, and they typically don't go outside. What cage-free means is there's an access point to the outdoors, but they typically do not go outside. So cage-free is as close to conventional as possible. I mean, all the chickens are probably hoarded together into one building, and even though they have access to the outdoors, they don't necessarily go outside, whether it's they're afraid of the predators, or they're too lazy, or they don't even notice the door is open, or it's just some weird standard that they can put cage-free and then just half-ass let some door open that chickens don't actually have access to. Whatever the case may be, these are just standards: pasture-raised, free-range, and cage-free. So out of them three, obviously pasture-raised will be more expensive. I mean, there might be $4 or $5 a dozen, but compared to free-range and cage-free, you're either going to pay for your health now or you're going to pay later. Or you pay for your family's health now or later. So this is just a general guide and a standard to follow. Now, if you find cage-free eggs, it's plastered all over the container, it's marketed like it's all great and everything, and it's $4 a dozen, and you see pasture-raised, it's still going to have all the marketing and branding and labeling and all that, and it's still $4 a dozen, you probably, according to this research article, which was found at naturalhealth365.com, you're better off going with the pasture-raised. And free range is still better than cage-free and conventionally grown, but again, if you spend big bucks on it, it may not necessarily be worth it. Pasture-raised is definitely the best one. The most ideal method, though, if it's available to you, definitely one you would want to consider, is a farmer's. If you just go to somebody's farm, buy a dozen eggs, or 4 dozen eggs, whatever the case may be, give them $3-4 a dozen, or whatever the case may be, and then you can just drive home, stick it in your fridge, leave it on your counter. What I generally do is I'll boil up about a dozen of them at a time and eat 2 or 3 of them. That'll last for 2, 3, 4 days maybe, and then just continue that process. Then you're not cooking them every single night, and they're always there and they're available. Yeah, they're boiled, but you can still eat them. They taste great, they look great, they feel great, they'll make you feel great, ideally. And supposedly they're pretty healthy too. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the conclusion of this show. We're glad to have you joining us here once again. Hopefully we'll be able to maintain the green screen theatrics in the very near future. It appears the lighting seems okay. Yeah, it's kind of a hassle to have a light shining on the side of me, but maybe it is a source of energy, so maybe it'll inspire some better thinking and health raising. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, go raise some health this weekend, and we absolutely salute you, and we're glad to have you joining us once again, and we salute you, the audience at home.